Hello, friends, and welcome to a very special Monday edition of the Happy Half Hour. People are happier, I gather.
The Happy Half Hour is happier when people are happy. See, I have a way with words.
I mean, it's right there in the title. She has a way with words. I hired her to write words. This is why we do things here. We do them on purpose. And you know what we do them? We do it for our sponsors.
Right.
And thanks to our friends from Deep Eddy for sponsoring this episode of the Happy Half Hour. You, too, can be a part of the action by entering the Deep Eddy Sweet Sip Sweepstakes. There it is. I am getting better and better at that.
You're going to have to start saying it 5 times fast, like Sally sells seashells by the seashore.
That's easy for you to say. It's not like Sweet Sip Sweepstakes. You can join all the fun by entering the Sweet Sip Sweepstakes between now and October 26th. Come up with your custom cocktail using Deep Eddy vodka, and you could win a fabulous prize package, which includes 2 tickets to the November 9th Saints game, access to the One Carolina Suite, and all the private Deep Eddy sweet swag that comes with that. It's going to be a good time.
I love some Deep Eddy sweet swag.
Yeah, we got to work on that. I'll do anything just about for free booze and a T-shirt.
And a T-shirt.
But that has been my custom in life. Thanks to our friends at Deep Eddy for hooking us up with that, and it's going to be a good time for everybody on November 9th. And if it's kind of like that game yesterday, it's definitely going to be a good time for everybody.
Woo, buddy, that was a ride, wasn't it? A 17-0 deficit to come back from that matches the biggest comeback in franchise history, which I think it has now been done 4 times.
4 times.
Yes. And what a day. I mean, so many things to talk about. Where do you even want to start? Let's throw a dart at the board and pick one. Rico Dael, 234 all-purpose yards. Incredible day. 206 rushing yards, which ties him with Jonathan Stewart for the second-best single-game rushing performance in franchise history. His all-purpose scrimmage yards trails only Christian McCaffrey, who had a pair of 237-yard performances. Quite a day from Rico Dael.
That's a pretty good collection of names Rico Dael is now among.
And I think the single game rushing, he and Jonathan Stewart now only trail D'Angelo Williams. What's going to be fun now is what happens when Chuba Hubbard is healthy again.
That's right.
And, Dave kind of said today, like, it's a good problem to have. It's the champagne problem.
Well,
when you've got 2 backs, it can be done. You see the Detroit Lions doing it right now with Jamar Gibbs and David Montgomery.
And again, we've seen it here.
With
D'Angelo and Jonathan each went for 1,100 yards in 2008. We've seen it here to a lesser degree with Deontay Foreman and Chuba Hubbard during his younger years. So, I mean, working those 2 guys in tandem is a thing that can be done. But one of the things that's a reality of this situation is it's really hard to play 17 games of professional football in a row. And Chuba missing a little time with that calf injury is just that's why Rico Dael's here, because Dave Canales has made running the ball central to what they want to do. So have a couple 1,000-yard backs so that you can seriously say this is what we're about no matter what happens. And yesterday was a perfect example. I mean, if you're not starting, you're just talking about opportunity. And when Rico got his, he definitely made the most of it.
And I think what we saw yesterday as well is because Rico had kind of been spelling Chuba here and there, and they were trading off series during the first few weeks. You really saw what Rico brings differently than Chuba. They're both so good at what they do in their own right, but they do have a little bit of a different game. Chuba is so good between the tackles, straight up the middle. That's really where he kind of makes his bread and butter. Rico's a little better at like that outside zone stuff, and that's really where that's how he got 1,000 yards at Dallas last year is kind of bouncing outside. And you saw him do that a lot yesterday. They had a lot of success running to the right, which Dave Canales kind of, really praised Brady Christensen, Taylor Moton today. And Rico even got to a point where he was asking for certain plays that would do that. And he tore one off to open the second half with a 53-yard rush. That was a very particular – he asked Brad Idzik and Dave Canales to call that play. And Dave said he told him, like, okay, well, I'm going to call it early. You better be ready. And he was and that's exactly what it was. It was a pitch. He ran outside. He told us last night, he said, that was a lot of like inside zone stuff that kind of bounces out. He's like, I don't really run that here. And or they had not in the past, just because that's not necessarily Chuba's game. But you kind of saw how you could balance these 2 guys when Chuba is back and have them both running the offense at the same time, maybe even on the field at the same time.
And I think more important than the play itself or whether it's inside zone, all the football jargon that people like to use in times like this, the reality is being able to run is the most important part of this because, as you saw, I mean, there were early turnovers, again, just like the Arizona game, got in an unfortunate early hole, and instead of being down 17-0 and saying, oh, my God, we have to throw, we have to get caught up in a hurry, they just did normal football.
Yeah.
And I love the way Dave Canales talks about we got back to our normal football. What does normal football mean? Normal means running the ball. And, yes, I am aware I'm a very old person. All of my football references are old. I refer to old people who used to do this 100 years ago. But it works. And I just love it so much because if you can play old man football, if you can keep chains moving just by running the ball, I mean, really, with all due respect to everybody involved in that comeback, the thing they needed while down 17 was the stability that came with just turning around, handing it to Rico and letting him grind off a couple first downs in a row. Because when you're in that moment, what you need is to breathe. What you need is to extend a drive a little bit, give the defense a chance to breathe, and just stay in that normal mode where it has such a stabilizing effect on both sides of the ball that's why so many people throughout the history of football, me included, believe that's still the basis of any successful offense is being able to get a first down without throwing it all over the yard.
After the second turnover, and they were down, I think, 17-0. The drive, when the offense came back out on the field, the first 5 plays of that drive were a run. And Rico talked about it last night and said to me that Dave still trusted us to get back in this game, and he trusted me to do my part in it. And so it did. It to your point, it helped settle them down. It helped keep the game plan going. It also sent a message. Hey, we're down 17-0. It's still really, really early in this game. We can get back into this, and the way we get back into it is just keep – I almost said keep pounding unironically. Keep pounding at it, play by play, get back into it. Don't let one play bleed into the next. Just kind of go with our game plan, and it worked.
And by the way, 20-second timeout that's going to take way longer than 20 seconds because it's Darin's soapbox time. How cool was that? Melanie Mills hitting the keep pounding drum, the widow of Sam Mills, the man who said the words themselves. His widow was here in the end zone before the game, hitting the keep pounding drum, surrounded by Panthers legends. I mean, Mike Rucker and all those dudes were down there with her, and it was really – I'm sitting here, and it's not just because it's 45 degrees in this studio. I'm sitting here with chills because having talked to so many of the guys who were around for the original version of that speech, Sam's whole thing was it's not just persevering through hard times. It's not just pushing when that's the only thing you know how to do. It's doing it for the guy next to you. And it's being surrounded by people who are doing it for each other. So, and maybe it's just me, and I've spent, a good third of my life telling the Sam Mills story over and over as often as anybody wants to hear it. But it was super cool to see that happening, and Melanie surrounded by everybody in that end zone, making that happen. A super cool moment for so many people in this stadium.
And then for that to be the game where it happened at, too, where that kind of epitomized that exact mindset.
It's almost like the universe was talking to us, and we should just listen sometimes. But it was super cool. Now, we get back to the football. We talked about the running and stabilizing things. The reality was they found themselves in another hole that they had to get out of, and Bryce turned it over, and they were very clear. They've got to clean that stuff up. They can't have the early turnovers, and Bryce making those 2 mistakes early on got them in that mode. But I think Bryce also deserves a ton of credit for getting them out of that hole. I loved one of my favorite little moments from that postgame locker room. I was talking to Derek Brown, and Derek is not a guy who is really into hyperbole.
Right.
Derek is not a guy.
He's just meat and potatoes.
He is not here to advance your narrative. He's just telling you exactly what he believes happened and the way he saw it. And I asked him about those situations, and he was like, listen, man, he's getting to be where he wants to be. He said he walks to me after the second turnover, when he threw the pick, he said he walks up to me straight on the sidelines and said, "Go get it back for me and we'll go." And I think everybody thinks of Bryce as press conference Bryce because he's super excited, he's super grateful, all those things. But Bryce has got a little salt about him in those situations on the field and amongst his teammates. I think you saw a little bit of it in that mic'd up clip that we had last night where you see a little bit of that coming out, that swagger, whatever you want to call it. Bryce has got more of that than I think a lot of people who only see press conferences believe to be the case. But for a Derek Brown to stand there and say, we believe he's going to do this, that matters because as they build this thing around players, and Dave Canales has talked over and over about wanting it to be player-led, having a Bryce Young and a Derek Brown having that conversation rather than having a coach jump on Bryce and say, you can't do that, you can't do that, you got to do this, you got to do that. Those two are solving the problem themselves. That's part A. But part B is Bryce began to deal. I mean, down 17-0, yes, they ran the ball well, but he solved a lot of problems with that touchdown pass to XL.
Yeah.
Because
everybody had to feel like a weight was lifted
off of a lot of people. I mean, both of those guys on either end of that play, but also Dave Canales, Dan Morgan, and a lot of people, because XL getting back into the flow of this was a thing they believed was going to happen, but until they saw it happen. And, I mean, I just love the throw because Bryce, it was one of those where he threw it before XL broke to it.
Yeah.
And it was an anticipation throw, and he was counting on his big, fast guy being at the right place at the right time and then catching it. Guess what? He did.
And, most people, credit to the announcer who called this out during the game, too. So much fun to go back and watch the game, too, and listen to
Eric Collins.
Thank you. I was blanking. Listen to Eric Collins.
Eric Collins did mix in they're hanging on like a cat on a screen door. And the only thing we were missing was Del Curry going, yeah, they are.
It was fun to listen to him do it. A lot of times a quarterback in that situation, especially if you go back and watch what X was doing on that play, would have thrown it towards the back corner. That was an anticipation throw, and that was a trust throw to trust that Leggett was going to come out and get his hands out. And a moment of credit for XL, too. He's put a lot of work in to get better at the hand catches because he kind of came in being a body catch guy. That was a pure hands catch in the end zone yesterday.
Yep. And we've talked about before, I mean, X, he's not quite to that Chuba Hubbard level, but he's a jugs machine guy now.
Yeah.
And that began after the Philadelphia game last year when he went to hang with Chuba and to fix what he believed is a problem. And you heard so many versions of that in that post-game locker room of, we see the work he's put into this. We know how seriously he takes this.
Yeah. And then back to just the point about Bryce kind of dealing. 2 huge fourth down plays in the game yesterday. One of them to T-Mac earlier in the game that was on the drive with the Leggett touchdown. Broke free from a would-be sack. Thought he was going to run. Everybody in the stadium, including myself, thought he was going to run. He didn't. He set himself up with 2 guys coming right at him. And to get that ball off down to T-Mac down the sideline and trust him to kind of pull that catch in with a guy on him, that kept that drive moving. And then they were able to score. And that was when that fourth down was, right? Yeah, 4th and 4.
Yep.
Yeah. And they were able to score, start their comeback. And then the drive, the final go-ahead touchdown to Mitchell Evans, that drive got extended because of a fourth down play to Jimmy Horn. How cool for Jimmy Horn in his first game to have that. And the trust, the placement, and everything from Bryce. That drive also had a great play from Bryce to Leggett. That was his second catch of the day, where Leggett kind of broke free from Rasul Douglas, a veteran, smart player. And Leggett saw a soft spot and kind of broke free from it, and Bryce found him there. Bryce took a hit as he threw that ball, too. He knew he was going to take a hit and stood in there and got it off. So, yes, 2 bad turnovers. Bryce would be the first to tell you that. He was, like you said, he got him back into it as well.
Yeah, no doubt.
And that doesn't take anything away from what Rico Dael did.
And while you talked about Bryce standing in the pocket and taking a hit, I took another hit off this Diet Coke. Because Mondays are late nights followed by early mornings and long days.
I was downstairs earlier, and as one does when JJ Jansen's there. You get pulled into a fun conversation. But I said,
at the coffee machine.
And I was like, what are you doing? And he goes, I'm going home. And he goes, what are you doing? And I said, I'm settling in, buddy, because I just got here.
That's right.
And he was like, why did you just get here? And I said, Mondays are weird days.
Yeah, they tend to last a long time. And so they're brought to you by our good friend Caffeine. Never fails. But anyway, no, I mean, to that point, Bryce deserves a lot of credit because, A, he kept plays alive. He stood in the pocket a couple times and took some shots. And it was a hard situation, and I think he needed to prove that he was capable of that to a lot of people, even though a lot of those guys in the locker room talk over and over about how much they believe that's what he's got in him. So at the same time, this stood as proof of concept, okay? And it stood as proof of concept for a lot of people. It wasn't just Bryce. It was the fact you could run. And I think structurally, I just love the fact that on that last drive, you had 3 plays coming down the stretch going to guys who were drafted on the 3rd day of this year's draft. I mean, Jimmy Horn.
The touchdown drive.
Yeah, the final touchdown drive. You had Mitchell Evans, your 5th-round pick, catching the game-winning touchdown. You had Jimmy Horn, the 6th-round pick, who hadn't even been active for a game yet, catching that huge 4th down play. But even after Rico left the game to go chug pickle juice on the sideline because he had a cramp, Trevor Etienne comes in and rips off a couple of runs to keep that thing moving. So,
Trevor had a huge first down run to get them to the 4-yard line on that drive.
So when you think about what it means, having draft picks produce, having those rookies who you talk about trusting, stepping up and earning that trust and showing you why you should trust them, it was just all good things for the Carolina Panthers.
Darin.
Yes.
I know comparison is the thief of joy.
Uh-oh.
But I'm going to compare this. Matt just shot me a look. I think he's scared about what I'm going to say. I know that there's always talk, like we can't help as a human people to look back. We use history to explain our present time. I was thinking about this last night, and I was sitting there kind of watching back some of the game and thinking through and thinking about the fact that they came back from 17-0. 2023, before I came here, I was covering the Packers that year. That was Jordan Love's first year as a starting quarterback, but he had obviously played some before that. So a little bit different than Bryce, who has been the starter since he's been here. But I started thinking, I was like, man, this season feels eerily similar to that 2023 Packers team. Just because during training camp, you could tell they had so many pieces and so many young pieces, but you could also tell they were going to have some growing pains to go through. They had a 30-something win in the first couple of weeks. They had a close loss, and then they had a game at home where they got into a 17-0 hole and came back and won that game, and then lost the next couple, but fought back into that season as a wild card. And I'm not saying that's what's going to happen, but that 17-0 game where they came back and won was dependent on a lot of rookies. And that's when you finally started to see like some of the things that you saw in training camp that were possible really start to click with Jordan Love and his rookies. And you saw the pass rush on that Packers defense really kind of find its groove in that win as well. And sitting there, like I said, watching the game last night, and I was like, man, this feels like that Packers-Saints game where they came back and won that game.
See, that's the kind of football expertise you only get from Cassidy G. Hill of Panthers.com. Let me tell you about the football expertise of Cassidy G. Hill of Panthers.com.
Oh, my gosh.
You know what's coming
I know what
here.
he's about to say, and then I have a counterpoint and an argument.
This is a quick, another 20-second timeout that's going to turn into a longer story. She plays fantasy football here in a league with some friends that I'm not a part of. She told me before the game she had to make a couple of tough decisions. She decided to play.
As a manager does.
Yeah, she decided to play Justin Fields at quarterback this week because she thought he had a favorable matchup against a Cowboys defense that hadn't done well in terms of fantasy points. And I said, well, that's a bold call. Who are you benching to make way for Justin Fields? Tell the people.
Patrick Mahomes, which could still work in my favor because I'm interested to see what he does tonight.
Naturally.
Right.
I mean, as one does, you bench a how many time MVP?
Who has what receivers does he have this
Justin
year?
Fields?
Justin Fields has Garrett Wilson.
Again, fantasy football, not real football, but there is not
Darin
a world.
Gave me a piece of advice yesterday, though, that was so bad that I will never take fantasy football advice from him again.
Which is probably a good idea anyway.
I made what I thought was a smart manager choice to start David Montgomery and Cam Scattaboo, which meant Derrick Henry went to the bench. And Darin made so much fun of me, he bullied me into switching that. And I started Derrick Henry, and I benched David Montgomery, and buddy, was that the wrong decision.
I didn't tell you to bench David Montgomery. That's crazy. Only an idiot would do that. You got a Derrick Henry, you play a Derrick Henry. You got a running game, you trust your run game. You got a quarterback.
Cam Scattaboo almost
You got a
doubled
quarterback
his
who
points.
can make plays downfield. You trust that guy to make those plays. It's almost thematic, and it's like we've brought this back around to the top. But anyway, no, there was so much good stuff yesterday, and we'll get into it later when we catch you guys on Thursday. Getting into this Dallas game.
Quick moment for the pass rush, though, too.
No doubt. I mean, that's
3 sacks, 9 tackles for loss.
Yep.
Wow.
And just run defense in general.
Yeah, 19 yards.
I was talking to some of the guys in the locker room today. The run defense last year, it's completely different than it was last year. But when you think about a team that gave up 200 yards a game on the ground for 6 straight games to close the season, it was not great. And they went out and brought in a bunch of people because they knew they had to change it, but it has changed. 19 yards allowed on the ground to the Miami Dolphins, which it doesn't matter who you're playing against. 19 yards rushing, that team is not going to win very many games. Second fewest in a single game in franchise history behind the 14 they allowed to Washington in 2015. So, just an all-around good day. Pass rush got loosened up, as you mentioned. Run defense was great and continues to get better week after week. They see that thing stabilizing. And, again, it's kind of that proof of concept. You see all those little elements that we've been talking about all offseason. And Sunday, a lot of those things came together at once.
They're in the top 15 in rush defense now.
Which is
a 19-yard game will help with that. But
which, again, for those of you who were around for last season, that's just bananas.
Yeah.
But it's very real. The Carolina Panthers are working on something here. And it's just not to say I don't want to harsh anybody's mellow, dampen anybody's enthusiasm. Enjoy your Deep Eddy and celebrate with your friends because you should. These chances are rare. You should enjoy them. But yesterday was that day when some of those little threads started coming together and turning into something greater. So it'll be interesting to see how they build on it. Here's the other cool part. They get to build on it right here in this building again. Sunday, Dallas Cowboys coming to town.
Yeah,
Third
straight year.
Don't make me tell another Sam Mills story about what happened before that Dallas Cowboys playoff game. I will tell that story over and over again. Seriously, it's
that
like
might be a Thursday story.
Pull a string in Darin's back and watch him go for the next 15 minutes. So, at any rate, for Melanie Mills and everybody who was surrounding that Keep Pounding Drum, for all the fans out in the stands who enjoyed a super cool day. Just seeing the videos of people out there listening to Sweet Caroline and having themselves the time. That was good. Thanks to our friends at Deep Eddy. Thanks to Cassidy, Matt behind the board. Our Duck friend right here, Chuck. He's good luck now. We'll call him Chuck the Duck in honor of J.J. Jansen's hockey team where they chuck a puck. It just came to me. You were talking about J.J. So
you're so smart.
I know, right? At any rate, thanks to everybody. We'll see you Thursday on the Happy Half Hour.